Evil is everywhere, but sometimes it comes from where we least expect it. It is hard to picture such innocent faces doing wrong, yet each and every one of these bright-faced children grew up to be true villains. These are the 10 childhood pictures of mass murderers. Jeffrey Dahmer spent his childhood in both Wisconsin and Ohio. His smiling, boyish face does not tell the story of a future maniac, but that is precisely what he became. Dahmer went down in history as the Milwaukee Cannibal, a title he earned from his various acts of necrophilia and cannibalism. He was particularly interested in preserving body parts of the many men and boys that he lured in, including parts of their skeletons and their reproductive organs. Dahmer was diagnosed with severe mental illnesses, including schizotypal personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and psychotic disorder. Although his mental state was questionable, he was still asked to stand trial. He was initially facing 15 counts of murder, but he only pled guilty to 13. He was then sentenced to 16 life terms in prison. In 1994, Dahmer finally met his end when fellow inmate Christopher Scarver beat Dahmer to death at the Columbia Correctional Institution. Osama bin Laden was born to divorced parents in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Even at a young age, bin Laden had embraced life as a devout Sunni Muslim like his father before him. He was a well-educated boy, attending an elite school and finding interest in both writing and poetry. But bin Laden's life took a radically different path after he founded Al-Qaeda in the year 1988. Al-Qaeda is best known for its attack on the World Trade Center in New York in 2001, during which almost 3,000 people were killed. It was this act of evil that made bin Laden a major target during the War on Terror. Born in Rochester, Michigan, Aileen Wuornos was a bright-faced blonde girl. Unfortunately, Eileen's childhood was far from perfect. Her mother was not equipped to care for Aileen and her brother, so she abandoned them when Aileen was only 3 years old. Aileen was then raised by her grandparents. Perhaps due to her difficult start in life, Wuornos fell into a life of crime at an early age. By the age of 11, she was exchanging sexual favors for cigarettes and drugs, an act that foreshadowed her later choice to become a prostitute. This criminal behavior continued throughout Wuornos' young life, sometimes violent, some not. It was believed that Wuornos could use her job as a sex worker to lure men in before murdering them in cold blood. However, Wuornos would always claim to police that her victims had attacked her and that she had only killed them in self-defense. After sentencing, Wuornos became the 10th woman to ever be put to death in the United States and was put to death in the year 2002. John Wayne Gacy had a troubled childhood from the start. After being born in Chicago, Gacy quickly became a victim of his abusive father, and throughout Gacy's childhood, he was not only beaten with a razor strap, but also forced to watch his father assault his mother. Later in life, Gacy became a clown for children's parties. He was a family man, and generally well-liked by his community. But there was not an explanation for the multitude of sexual assaults and disappearances taking place around him. Eventually, the police caught on to him. The bodies of almost 33 men and boys that he killed were found buried beneath his house, which proved to be an extremely gruesome sight. Gacy was sentenced to 12 death sentences and 21 natural life sentences, and was given a lethal injection in 1994. Richard Ramirez was the youngest of 7 when he was born in El Paso, Texas in 1960. While Ramirez's parents were both hardworking, he found himself more influenced by his cousin Mike. Mike was a Green Beret, and he was more than willing to show Richard Polaroid pictures of gruesome scenes from the Vietnam War. It was this early influence that would lead Richard to raping 25 women. Ramirez earned the nickname the Night Stalker because he often manipulated his victims in the middle of the night. Not only did Ramirez worship Satan, but he also had deviant sexual fantasies. These fantasies drove him to become a serial rapist and 13-time murderer. Ramirez's case cost over $1.8 million to prosecute, making it the most expensive trial in California's history. Although he was sentenced to an execution, natural causes took his life before the authorities could. Ted Bundy was born in the Elizabeth Lunn Home for Unwed Mothers in Vermont, though he was raised by his grandparents. Ted was particularly close to his grandfather, who was known for being abusive towards Ted's mother. It was even speculated that Ted's grandfather could also be his father. Ted Bundy was able to commit a number of rapes in the Far West before his arrest. He had made his way through a good portion of the Far West and the Midwest before he finally went to trial. It was then that he made several confessions. He admitted to rape, murder, and even necrophilia. Bundy was then sentenced to be put to death. He was executed by electric chair in 1989. James Holmes was born in San Diego, California in 1987. He was raised by wealthy parents in a nice neighborhood, though that was not enough to keep his mental illness at bay. He first attempted suicide by age 11. Holmes had been in and out of psychiatric care for many years leading up to his arrest, but despite his access to psychiatric help, Holmes went on to commit the infamous Aurora movie theater shooting in 2012. Holmes was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Manson was exposed to debauchery when he was a very small boy, mostly due to his mother's alcoholism and life as a prostitute. It was this experience that would desensitize him to the evils he would later commit in life. While Manson was never directly linked to the violent crimes committed by the Manson family, he was the mastermind behind them. He gathered followers by administering psychedelic drugs and giving them commands to do his bidding. As he gained followers, he put them up to more and more despicable acts, including the most evil act of all, murder. Manson was sentenced to life for crimes and has been denied parole 12 times. To this day, he remains in prison. Dylann Roof was born in Columbia, South Carolina. Even at a young age, Roof had shown signs of mental illness, particularly obsessive-compulsive disorder. Roof was particularly known for going on racist rants, especially about the Trayvon Martin case and the death of Freddie Gray. It was this background that was believed to cause Roof's heinous act of mass murder upon an African-American church in Charleston, South Carolina. Roof is currently facing 33 charges. Jury selection for his trial will begin in November of 2016. Joseph Stalin was born in Gordy, Georgia in 1878. At this time, Georgia was still a subject nation of the Russian Empire. Stalin spent his earlier years getting into fights with the other children of his village, and eventually moved on to bank robberies in order to obtain funds for the fledgling Bolshevik Party. All of Stalin's efforts would finally pay off in 1922 when he became the second leader of the Soviet Union. After gaining power, Stalin used communism as a justification to exterminate his enemies. There are a reported 34 to 49 million deaths directly attributable to Stalin. He is the only world leader to have killed more people than Adolf Hitler. For more top lists just like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to check out our other lists. And thanks for watching, and thanks for learning.